I really kind of like the way these drones are coming along with this tempera paint. Here's the first one that I did in this series. Got the electronics on the bottom, seeing eye on the top. It's from a bike flasher. So I was thinking about the fact that my so-called style, whatever that might be, it really has not progressed in any appreciable way since I was a kid. You know, you could look at this stuff, the way it's made and the way I paint, and you've seen some of my other paintings in the background. Nothing in terms of skill has come along. I can't draw any more realistically or to represent something any better than I could when I was 10 or 12 years old. And I've never really tried to work on that, but you know, you would think like that something like that would come along. And I guess for some people it does naturally develop, and other people it doesn't. But in my case, it's kind of interesting because I'm not discouraged by that at all. You know, for years when I was a photographer and I was working as a teacher and really couldn't devote time to this kind of stuff, I always thought about doing this stuff. And then I was thinking, well, you know, it's kind of embarrassing because you can't really draw too well or paint or anything. And even though I wasn't doing this work, I was thinking about it a lot. And I came to the conclusion that I should just paint and do what I can do, what I'm capable of doing. And that's what makes it different from what everybody else is doing. And certainly, you know, it's easy to criticize and say, well, you know, a child could do that. Absolutely, a child could do this. And I think that's great, you know, but it doesn't hold me back from trying. I read a nice quote or a little summary of an idea from Kurt Vonnegut recently where he was asked when he was a young guy by an older man, you know, do you play any musical instruments? And he said, yeah, but not well. He was embarrassed about that. And the guy said, well, no, you shouldn't be ashamed of that. The fact that you're doing it and the fact that you're having that experience is really valuable. And that's more important than mastering anything if you know, decide, you know, you don't really want to dedicate the time to trying to be a master. And of course, some people just don't have the talent. When I was a kid, I also fooled around with playing the guitar, and it was hard for me, you know, like I tried to figure out songs. I wanted to be in a rock band and stuff like that, and with some effort I could do it, but it was really a difficult experience for me, and you know, I got discouraged and I gave up. If I had kept with it, maybe by now, 60 years later, I'd you know, be, you know, somewhat competent. But you have to ask yourself, at what cost? You know, what's your willingness to invest in trying to master something? There's a lot to be said for that. You know, I think as far as my writing goes, I'm a much better writer than I was 20 years ago when my first book came out, and you know, that was acceptable. I got some good reviews for that. It was mainly a photo book, but I did a lot of writing for it as well, and got reviewed in the Library Journal. You know, really nice review, and I think I'm a much better writer now than I was then, because after that book was published, I went back to school for writing and got some real good mentoring, and I was able to, you know, develop that quite a bit more than this. But you know, I guess I just have more A, determination, and B, some kind of talent in that area. Although, I don't know, I'm pretty damn determined at this. I built this barn to be able to do this kind of stuff, and that took a lot of wherewithal, but I was convinced that it was a worthwhile investment. So I don't know where the talent comes in, you know, in this situation, because clearly I don't have what people would call classical or technical artistic talent, and I really wouldn't want it. That you know, when I look at stuff that people paint or draw that's realistic, I respect it an awful lot. I think, man, that's really something. And maybe the person was good at it naturally, or maybe they did develop a skill, and really worked hard at it. But it's not something that I would aspire to. And I am convinced some kids are really just naturally talented. I had one boy when I first began teaching. Won't forget this. In the year back in 1980, I was teaching a class on China. I was a social studies teacher, and so I had the kids draw maps of China, and label them and all. And I had one boy who could sit there and have the map in the book there and just copy from that. And he was like a human Xerox machine. It was incredible. And then he showed me later some of the, freehand drawings he did of things. I think he went on to become an architect or, something in that field. He was in 10th grade and never took any kind of real instructions, but that was his talent. So, what am I saying here? I guess all I'm saying is, if you're interested, if you've watched this far in the video, and any of this stuff that I do is of any interest to you, and you want to fool around and try it for yourself, just do it, and get yourself some materials. The stuff that I use doesn't cost very much. It's all scrap, surplus, whatnot, and it's real easy to get started. And I think one important thing is, you don't have to build a barn or move. This barn was actually moved from where I grew up. You don't have to have a fancy place at all, but try to set up some kind of an area where that's all you do there, where you don't have to go into a room and move stuff out of the way to do your thing, if you want to call it a hobby or you want to call it your serious art pursuit. Set up a space where you can have your stuff and you don't have to do anything else there, and you don't have any excuse. You can just go to work. So go to work and enjoy, and don't take it too seriously.